This week on Clip Service, guys, we don't look too good. Someone needs to check for a pulse with this Clipper team. This episode is going to be a little bit more negative than you guys are probably used to, but we will try not to dwell too much on it. We're just going to try and be realistic because I know that I speak for a lot of Clipper fans when I say that there are some concerning tendencies that this Clipper team has been showing for about a month now. And a little bit throughout the season, but lately it's been an issue. So, also we just got done watching a abysmal fourth quarter against the Philadelphia 76ers that didn't have Joel Embiid. We were pretty much healthy, besides obviously Russell Westbrook. So we're a little fresh off that loss. So it's gonna sting a little bit harder for us just with how recent that was. So yeah, without further ado, let's make it happen.
What's up, Clipper Nation, and welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Make sure to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, and YouTube. And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Clip Service Pod. I'm Rolla, and this is my co-host Nick. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's just get right into it, guys. The Clippers about 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago, just took a 121-107 loss to the Joel Embiid-less 76ers. Yeah, and you know what? It if it was an isolated incident, if this was like, oh, you know what, it was a trap game. It was a noon game. Game started at 12:30 in Los Angeles. The Clippers are historically a little bit slower, have a little bit more trouble with those noon games, the brunch games, as they're sometimes referred to. But yeah, the Clippers come out and have a awful fourth quarter and lose to Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris and Cameron Payne and Kelly Oubre. Yeah, we'll talk about that one once we get there. We got a couple more games to cover. But yeah,
Let,
things are go ahead,
let,
Rolla.
let's just get into what's the problem, dude? What's the problem with the Clippers? What would you say
That's
is
a
the number one
that's a
problem?
great that's a great question, Rolla. My goodness. I think it's a multitude of things, but I think the biggest problem with the Clippers, and I said it on last week's pod when I was by myself. Thanks, Rolla.
I
When I
got
was by
you.
myself, but I said it. The biggest issue with the Clippers is like a lack of fight and a lack of effort and a lack of willingness to do the little things on the margins to try and get the wins. And I piggybacked off of that with saying that that's part of the reason why I still have hope, because that's something that you can fix overnight. That's not something that you have to get reps for or that you have to wake up early in the morning and practice for. That's just something
hmm
that you go out and do. And we have the star power to where these guys have been in big playoff games before and are champions like Kawhi. So they should know that just, you know, off the bat. But we're playing like a team that doesn't know what we're capable of, and we're playing like a team that just kind of rolls over. And we've seen this time and time
hmm
again against teams that we should be winning, or that teams that we should be beating. We just roll over and we don't look like the aggressive team. I think that's the biggest issue. I mean, yes, we haven't had Russell Westbrook for a while. He's been out with a broken hand, and Russ does give the team that burst of energy. He's been a great point of attack defender all season. He's a great rebounder. He does a lot of little things, and he's obviously been missed. But if Russell Westbrook coming off the bench is the difference maker between us beating shitty teams and us getting rocked by shitty teams, then we aren't a championship team in the first place. Russell Westbrook is a way to help with that. He's not the
Mhm.
end all be all in terms of coming out with energy. So I think that that's been the biggest thing. And I really don't think I hear a lot of takes from Clipper fans, and every take is, has merit and, is fair. But one that I disagree with is that it's a matter of roster construction. I don't really think that the
Oh,
issues with
absolutely
this
not.
team yeah, I don't think that the issues with this team is a matter of roster construction. I think the issues with this team are between the ears, and that's what's so frustrating. Is it's a mental thing. We half the time don't look aggressive or like that we want to win or whatever, and it's just perplexing. I don't know, Rolla, what do you think? Because that's my take on it.
Um, yeah, honestly, dude, I completely disagree with almost everything you said.
Okay,
Um,
shocker. Let's hear it.
uh, I think the Clippers issue comes down to the same issue that we've had for when did was that 2019 when Kawhi and Paul George came?
Yes.
Same issue we've had for 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So 5+ years. Um, Comes down to Paul George, dude. I said this when we started the season. I said this last year. I said this the year before. At the end of the day, he's the key. He's the guy that makes our team what it is. If he plays well, we're unbeatable. If he plays poorly, we're shit. If he's the leader, he's the guy. I know, you know, people think it's Kawhi. Kawhi gets paid the most. Puts up the points. Kawhi does this and that. Kawhi's going to give you what he's going to give you. That's one thing. That's why he's a top 5, 6 player in my eyes. He's going to give you what he gives you every single game. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Paul George. He is the key to us winning the chip. When he's the reason we've been playing so poorly, I don't want to say the only reason, but I think that there's a correlation between Paul George playing like shit the past month and our
He
entire
hasn't
team.
though.
He has.
He
He
hasn't. He's been
played
playing.
he
Go
played
ahead. Go ahead.
well this week. 2 games against the Trailblazers, and those are the 2 games we won. We've
No,
like
no, he played well against the Hawks too. The game that we lost, another game that we should have won. He had 26. He shot almost 50% from the field. He had four threes.
I mean, okay, give him 1 game. Everyone knows Paul George has been playing like shit. I don't know why you're trying to cover up for him, but I get
He
like I
hasn't though.
guess I
He
know he
hasn't.
has. But look at his numbers over the past month. It has not been up to what he usually puts up. He
You can't.
At the beginning of the season, Paul George said, "I'm on my bully shit." This
Mhm.
is not bully shit numbers. 26 points is not bully shit numbers. Look at Anthony Edwards. That is bully shit. Dunking on these kids. I was about to say another word, but
Probably
dunking on
good that
them.
you didn't.
It's, uh, I mean, I just think that we need more. We need to play with more energy. We need to play with more passion, and it all starts from Paul George. And if he doesn't give that to the team, then the team doesn't go anywhere. But
I
I think at the end of the day, I mean it's a long season, so I think there are going to be highs and lows. The issue with Paul George is his lows are really low.
that
So
I
I
agree
think
with.
once he gets back to par, and once we get back to par, like I said, it's on the fans to bring him back to par.
We can't
I
just keep using PG as a scapegoat though, because
it's not him as a
it's.
scapegoat. It's a trend, dude. It's a trend.
I think if we're gonna put if we are going to put because of the amount of talent that we have top end on this team, if we are going to blame one of our stars, then we have to blame all three of them. All three, being James Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George, because Paul George has been playing better. Like he really has. And I think to kind of maybe piggyback off of what you said, I think that it's been a big issue has been all three of our stars. And hasn't necessarily been them like missing or making shots either. It's been a lack of effort and a lack of
Mhm.
like the killer instinct. And I don't think it's just on Paul George. Some nights it's James Harden. Some nights, believe it or not, it's Kawhi. And
Of course.
Kawhi's been great this season. He's been our best player this season for sure, and he's played a ton of games. So I have to give him credit for that. But I just can't put it specifically on Paul George. And I will agree with you in the fact that when Paul George is he's having a bad game, it's a very bad game because it's egregious with him. Like the turnovers are silly turnovers, and when his lows are very low. But I think that those three need to be put into like a bubble when they catch blame, because they need to be playing off of each other. They need to be our driving force. And I don't know if I can just put it on one guy unless it's a game where, Paul George goes 0 for 20 or 1 for 20 and has 5 points or something like that. And, that those are games that we can put on a specific player. But
Okay, so I have a secondary question.
yes.
Um, a couple years ago, after the bubble, Paul
Mm-hmm.
George had arguably one of his best seasons of his career and
Mm-hmm.
took the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals.
Uh-huh.
This year, on Paul George's podcast, he himself said, "I'm on my bully shit
Mm-hmm.
this season." Would you describe this season as him being on his bully shit? Yes or no?
No. No.
That's the
But
answer. I'm saying that him being on his bully shit changes everything for the team. Period. I mean, like,
okay.
I feel like the answer is right in front of us. The guy gets paid just as much as Kawhi. The guy is number 2 on the team when it comes to, order of importance. Be that guy. And and I don't even mean to go back to like, back when he was talking about him like being okay with being number 2 on the team behind Kawhi. But that's what irritates me about that statement he made is why why are you talking about being number 2? You are the most important piece on this team, dude. You're number 1. Have that mentality. Be on your bully shit. Be number 1.
I
Understand
think
that if you're not that number 1 guy for us, our team goes nowhere.
I think we're getting a little bit caught up in, and this is a big drawback of Paul George beyond what we see on the court sometimes is Paul George has a tendency to talk the talk, but a lot of the times he doesn't back it up. And
But he
that's
has the
something that he's got to
capability to.
that but I think that we're getting caught up in the fact that he said specifically I'm on my bully shit, or like he said that I'm okay being a number 2 option and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there's games when Paul George is arguably the biggest reason why we lose, but I think like the encapsulation of the Clippers' issues don't just fall on Paul George. They don't. And it's a mixture of things. And I think that goes all the way down to guys like Amir and Plumlee and, you know, Bones. And like everybody needs to be playing with more effort. And, tonight, like, or not tonight, today, I guess, against the 76ers, like we've seen before, Plumlee checks in the game and doesn't know how to execute a dribble handoff. We're up by 8. He grabs the rebound, throws away the ball on a simple dribble handoff to try and get the ball to James Harden. Fucking the 76ers steal the ball, wide open Tyrese Maxey 3, 10-point lead. Things start coming unglued from there. And it's like, that's like an encapsulation to me of the problems that we've seen. It's like we're careless, and it's all throughout the team. Obviously it starts with our 3 best players, but it's all the way throughout the team. And I already don't care for Plumlee anyway. I'm sorry, if you're watching this, Mason Plumlee. I don't think you are, but if you are, I'm so sorry. I'm just not a big fan of yours. But it's a lack of attention to detail. It's a lack of effort, and we're letting leads escape us. We'll have the lead at times, or like in this case, we tied the game, and then we make a bunch of errors. Everybody does, and the lead just disappears. And we have a game tomorrow against the Pacers. This is a game you need to put away. Um, I don't know. I don't really even know where I was going with this, but I don't know. I just can't blame one person. Paul George hasn't had a great season. That's for sure. And he's eligible for a contract extension, and it's kind of perplexing why he hasn't turned it up. But that's a microcosm to me of what the issues have been with the Clippers this season.
Well, so in I guess like in business or in under companies or corporations, I guess there's like a saying or like almost like a I don't even know how to describe it, but they say the motivation of the company basically all stems from the top, as in like the CEO, the CFO, like those like executives, how they run the company. Are they it's like Steve Ballmer. Like, are they excited about the team? Okay, because the lower workers see that the CEO is excited about the team, it makes them work harder. Because the managers see that their boss is working harder, is super excited, then they work hard, and it's almost like a fountain, I guess,
Yeah.
like a trickle down.
Okay.
So I mean, we have Steve Ballmer. Obviously, he gets crazy. He turns up for all the games, and then we have Ty Lue. Is Ty Lue putting in the effort? Is Ty Lue
I think he
excited?
is. I think he
Okay,
is.
then we move on to the next level. Is Kawhi excited? Is Paul George excited? Are they putting in the work? Are they putting in the passion?
No,
Do you see it on the court? And
not
then
really.
right, and then you go to the next level. So we see where it stops. It stops at Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, and that's why you're
Yes.
complaining about Mason Plumlee. We're complaining about the lower level, the role players, that they're not doing their job. And I'm saying, for the role players to have the passion and the motivation, the guys above them have to do the same. And I think that's the issue right now. And I think once that, and I'm saying specifically Paul George, because I don't think that is something Kawhi does. I think like I said, I think he just gives you what he gives you, and what he gives you is enough. As much as I hate to say it, and obviously he turns up in the playoffs. Um, but like I said, I think Paul George is the second guy in charge on our team, and he's not giving us what we need. And so the rest of the team is not falling in line. And that's the issue to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. I don't think there's really like a clear answer. And and as much as I like to shit on Mason Plumlee and PJ Tucker when they have bad games, there's not really any one person to blame. And I think that kind of piggybacks off of what you said. I don't know if I could blame specifically Paul George. I will agree that it does start with those three guys, and they haven't been able to win us games. Like, you know, in some of these games, they haven't been able to take over and be the best players on the floor. Like all three of those guys got outplayed by Campaign
Dude,
and Tyrese Maxey down the stretch.
well,
Um,
Tyrese Maxey is a different animal, but
it is what?
Tyrese Maxey is a different animal, but
Of
don't
course.
compare don't compare them to.
No, of course. It's incomparable, but regardless, Campaign outplayed
Yeah.
most, if not all, of our stars in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, not really a clear answer to it, but it's frustrating, and a lot of Clipper Nation is getting frustrated with it, rightfully so. But let's hop first right into the first game of this chunk of games that we should have won that we didn't, and that would be a 110-93 loss to the Hawks in LA at home. The Hawks haven't had Trae Young for a while. They've been sliding. They have a 30-37 record, so they're below 500. And the Clippers lost. The Clippers let DeJounte Murray kind of go off a
Mm-hmm.
bit. They look slow. They didn't look engaged. Did you watch this one roll up? Because I had
No, I
trouble,
didn't
but
get a chance to watch this one.
okay. So, um, yeah, the Clippers started off the game well, and as we saw in the games past against the Hawks, there's not really any defense on either side being played. The Hawks are a great offensive team and a lackluster defensive team. We've kind of been in a similar boat throughout the season. Um, and Kawhi went off for 17 in the first quarter. So
Damn.
things were looking good. But the bench comes in, kind of gives up a lead, and the Hawks get to a 21-point lead late in the second. Um, Clippers finished the first half down 17 and kind of just looked slow and lethargic throughout that second quarter, and things didn't really get better. There was a little bit of life shown in the third quarter, um, but DeJounte Murray had the confidence, and he started out slow, but he really he was hitting ridiculous shots later in the game, and the lead balloons back to 20 in the third. It was just it was a classic version of a multitude of games that we've seen from the Clippers this season where
Hmm.
we take our foot off the gas and we blink our eyes and we're facing a double digit deficit. And, I don't care who you're playing. If you give a team life, any iteration of any team, these are NBA players. If you give a team life, they are going to start hitting shots that are ridiculous, that are crazy. And then at that point, you're just praying that a DeAndre Hunter or Bogdan Bogdanovic three doesn't go in, because those guys are all feeling it and they hit ridiculous shots, and the
Hmm.
writing was on the wall at halftime, and we lost. We ended up losing this game. I know you said you didn't see it, Rolla, but that's pretty much an encapsulation of what happened. We had a great first quarter, or a pretty decent first quarter, I should say. Like I said, Kawhi had 17, but Kawhi finished the game with 28. So 11 points in three quarters. Uh, it's not going to get it done.
Right.
Paul George looked okay. 26 points. He had four steals. There was a lot of things that he was doing on the margin that kind of should have given us a chance in this one. But yeah, and this was the last. Also, this is another thing to watch for that I've been watching for in the last couple of games. This was the last game that Bones Highland played legitimate minutes, or any minutes for that matter, and he didn't look good. 5 turnovers, 2 points, -7. Wasn't really giving us anything off the bench at
Hmm.
all. And in the games following that, he's been replaced by Brandon Boston Jr. And I'm a big advocate of Brandon Boston Jr. I think he's really, really good, but that's an interesting wrinkle. When Russ went down, everybody was talking about how Bones was going to jump in and
Right.
fill in for him, and he had a really good game. He had I think 11 assists and 4 steal game. He looked like he was going to slide right in, but an issue that I've seen with Bones has been he just doesn't. His body language is bad, and that's kind of it's not like what we've seen throughout the season from him, where he kind of comes in, plays a couple minutes, sits back down on the bench, and his energy doesn't change. He looks like he's supporting the team from the bench, and
Right.
he's not complaining. But it's been unfortunate to
I mean, you
see
got to
from
keep in
Bones.
mind that he also got sent home along with PJ Tucker that one time. Was
Yeah,
that during the All Star break? So I mean,
that was right. Yeah, right before the All-Star break.
I kind of wonder why the Nuggets got rid of him, and it's
Well, I
kind of
mean,
showing a little bit now.
yeah, well, from whatever, you bring up a good point. Like, from everything that I understand from the Nuggets side of things, they were saying that he played selfishly. He kind of wasn't doing. He would have his moments, but he wasn't doing what the team needed of him.
Hmm.
And we're kind of seeing a little bit of that, and it's unfortunate because I'm still a big fan of Bones. We've seen a lot of really good stuff from him in short bursts, but yeah, it's been a little bit troubling. Brandon Boston has done a fine job in his stead. And honestly, I got to give props to PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is, he hasn't played a ton of minutes, but he's checked in and he's made a difference. He's grabbed rebounds, he's played decent defense, and he's more willing to shoot now. And, with the bone situation, and with just how bad Mason Plumlee has looked for a while now,
Hmm.
I've changed my tune a little bit on PJ Tucker. I think that he should probably be getting minutes over Plumlee. Tice has been great. I can't really complain much about
Hmm.
Tice. I think he should be getting all of our backup minutes. But when he's in foul trouble, or if he gets hurt, I think you got to give those backup 5 minutes to PJ Tucker, because while Mason Plumlee has his flashes, and he can catch a lob and he's an okay finisher, it seems to be like clockwork when Plumlee checks in. And I know that it's hard to blame a guy that's so deep in the rotation when he makes mistakes, but when Plumlee makes mistakes, they always seem to be momentum changers.
Yeah, they're
Doesn't
okay.
matter what it is. It'll be like we're getting the lead back, and then Plumlee throws the ball away, or Plumlee tries to dribble the ball up the court and dribbles it off of
Hmm.
his foot, and then the other team goes on a 10-0 run. Um, doesn't provide any resistance on defense. I hate to be the person to just keep shitting on Mason Plumlee, but I just it's it's been bad. It's been bad, and I don't really love the way he plays. He's just like kind of undisciplined.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I said this in a previous episode, but I mean, PJ Tucker's he's a champion. He is a professional,
yeah,
and even though he was angry or disgruntled, I mean, like if we give him minutes, I think he can produce for us, and I think that he can do a lot for our team. I mean, Mason Plumlee, like you said, is just honestly he's not very good. At the end of the day, Daniel Tice is significantly better. It's a significantly better backup center, and I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that Zoo is going to have too much time in the playoffs, or at least I hope. So it'd be nice to it'd be nice to. I mean, Mason Plumlee at that point, Mason Plumlee will be completely out the rotation, and it'll basically be Zoo whenever we're not in the fourth quarter, and Daniel Tice backing him up, and then we run the small ball. But um, other than that, I mean, it is what it is, you know. Um, I think
yeah,
Ty Lue just has to kind of figure out what's going to make the team better at this point.
yeah. And that's actually something. Before we jump into a little bit of a positive with those two Portland games, um, that's something that I wanted to touch on. I think Ty Lue catches a lot of flack because he's definitely more of a playoff coach than he is a regular season coach. He loves to adjust during the regular season, and sometimes it's head scratching rotations that he'll roll out. But I think that all of that is calculated. But I will say the one thing that I've noticed over the course of the last few weeks when we've taken these tough losses is just in Ty Lue's press conferences, the way that he's been really good about laying out exactly what the issues are, and he sounds like a broken record where he'll reiterate, we weren't the most aggressive team on the floor, or we didn't want it enough. And I really do think that he's doing what he can to try and tell these guys, like, yo, we got to start winning on the margins, we got to start doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that balls in the players' courts now, like, because I really do think that Ty is positioning these guys to be successful. I mean, he's trying a bunch of different rotations. He's playing guys he normally doesn't play. Bones, BBJ. We've seen Kobe Brown a couple of times. Plumlee, stuff like that. He's trying a bunch of different things, and really, it just boils down to, okay, like, I've told you the same thing over and over again. Like, you guys just need to go out there and do it. So, I think that Ty Lue's, he's one of the few guys that I really can't give a ton of blame to anymore. Like, yeah, like he'll have a couple minutes where you kind of scratch your head about the rotations he's putting out, but I think it boils down to the players. And I know we
I
keep
agree.
repeating the same things, but yeah, let's just jump right into the Portland Trailblazers game because I think we need a break in talking about how shit the Clippers have been lately. The Clippers surprisingly handled business in the two back-to-back games. Well, they weren't back-to-back, but the two games that we had against the Trailblazers. The first one was a 116-106 win against the Trailblazers. And
Yep.
this one, their best player was Scoot Henderson, who is really rounding into form. I've been a big Scoot Henderson believer this whole season. He was catching a lot of flack just because of how good his draft counterparts were, and he really was struggling to start the season, but he's starting to look a lot better, starting to show why he was a top 5 pick. But yeah, I mean, he only gave 18 that game. We kept Simons in check, 14 points from him, 17 from Chris Murray. Um, we kind of kept these guys in check, and a big reason was Paul George, 27 points,
Mm-hmm.
10 for 18 from the field, 2 steals, 4 assists, 6 rebounds. PG looked good in this one, was a plus 23. We got 24 from Kawhi Leonard. 19 from Harden with 14 assists, which is incredible.
Yeah, I would say James Harden was probably man of the match for this one.
Yeah, I mean, he was great. He was getting guys involved. He was, finding PG for three. Was making things a lot easier for his teammates.
Whoa, 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 whoa. This was the one here he contested. Kawhi 3. So I don't know about making
Okay,
things easier.
that's so true. A lot of people were asking me like, "Yo, did you see that video? Like, what the fuck?" Because I didn't get to watch this game. I was at Disneyland, but I did see that
Yeah,
highlight,
making
and
things
everybody was
easier for
asking
his
me like,
teammates.
I mean, he did give him the pass, so but yeah, people were asking me like, well, what was up with that? And actually, James Harden was asked about it after the game, and he was just
Yeah.
saying, we've been in a rut. He was basically saying something along the lines of like, we've been struggling, and I was just trying to keep the energy light and keep the I don't know, keep things fun. And like, if it had gone in, nobody would be talking about it. But Kawhi did miss the three, and kind of threw his hands up and was just perplexed. I don't know. It was weird. I wouldn't have done it,
No, we were already
but
up by like 20 at that point, I
exactly. It
think.
was the
So it
third quarter.
wasn't
We were up
like.
by 21 at the time, and we did get the offensive rebound, and it led to a coffee three. So we didn't
Mm,
really skip a beat on that possession, but. Um, yeah, I wouldn't have done it, but I kind of understand in a really fucked up, weird, silly way why he did it because you saw it. I think it was a couple years ago. The game was decided. It was the Lakers versus somebody else. Rajon Rondo goes up for a layup, and LeBron looks like he's going to try and block it. Like it's just a way for. It's almost like a troll. Like they're trolling, and it's just a way to keep things light. I don't
yeah.
know. I appreciate the effort
It was
from James
funny.
Harden. It was
Yeah.
funny, and with how excuse me, I'm dying. Um, with how shitty the Clippers have looked at times, I don't hate trying to lighten the mood, especially when we're up against a team that we should be beating. So it was weird, but I kind of get why he did it, especially after
Yeah.
he explained. But yeah, the Clippers handled business in this one. It looks like
Yeah,
this was
we were basically the game was basically over in the third quarter. It
that's what
wasn't
it looked like.
it wasn't I mean it was one of those games where like we kind of expected to win. We were up basically the entire game
Mm-hmm.
and kind of.
I think if it was anybody other than Kawhi too, it wouldn't have been taken so seriously. Because Kawhi's very, he wants to win every possession, whatever.
Mhm.
And ended up missing the three pretty badly. So if it was anybody other than Kawhi, I think it would have been more of like a jokey back and forth. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Clippers win that one. That's kind of all that we wanted, and then Clippers win the next one. 125 to 117 against the same team. Uh, did they have Simons in this one? I don't believe. No, they did. But he was pretty much a non-factor. 3 points from Simons, 24 from Scoot. The numbers in this one were a little bit inflated because I think we were up by 20 something. Uh, all the stars check out in the fourth, which is great. That's the kind of thing that you want.
Yeah.
But the third string unit was put in, and we might have the worst third string unit in the league because the Trailblazers went on a run, cut it to single digits, um, behind Scoot Henderson and Chris Murray and guys like Jabari Walker and Delano Banton and stuff like that. They made things interesting. Things were starting to get a little tight in the fourth down the stretch, but we ended up winning it. Aside from that little third unit or third string unit collapse, this game was great. It was another great game from Paul George, 31 points, 10 for 14 from the field, 22 from Kawhi. James Harden, another double double, 15 and 10. Terrence had a fantastic game, 20 points,
Hmm.
7 for 12, really efficient as he's always been. Yeah, I mean, Clippers handled business and they looked good. And, I was hoping that it would be like, oh, the Clippers are figuring things out. The offense, because I did watch this one, the offense looked crisp. We were passing the ball.
Yeah.
Guys were hitting their shots. The defense looked great. We put the team away. We did
It was like
everything
a
we needed to
comeback.
do.
It was like these two games were like a comeback game, supposed to
They
like
should
bring
have
us
been.
back, you know.
They should have
Um,
been. And
and also Paul George, he played his ass off. I don't know if you can. Oh, I don't know if you noticed, but the only shots he missed were off of 3-pointers. So he was like perfect from the floor in the paint. I mean, he was a plus 24 overall, the highest plus minus of the team. Uh, basically had a flawless game. 0 turnovers, 2 blocks. I mean, nothing you can complain about from Paul George. But overall, great team win. James Harden had 15 points and 10 assists. Um, I I think that James Harden has been. I don't really know how to explain my feelings for James Harden, especially recently. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if we. I want to hear your opinion. Would you consider him currently a superstar on our team, or just a kind of a facilitator type? Because I just don't think that he goes off as much as he should. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it, and there's definitely something to be taken from that. I think since he's been a Clipper, and this was, when we were winning, it was something to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
But that was why I was so confident. And I still have a lot of confidence in this team. But when we were winning a bunch and James was playing well after that 6 game losing streak that we had,
Mm-hmm.
um, this team was constructed in a way that most super teams aren't. And I mean that in the sense that Kawhi and PG were able to cook, and James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who are Hall of Fame players and still, can give you fantastic numbers. They're not like, I wouldn't say that they're washed.
Right.
They were playing role player roles, essentially glorified role player roles,
Mm-hmm.
particularly Russell Westbrook because he was coming off the bench. But Harden was slotted into that facilitator role. And, he would have games like the one against the Pacers where he went for 4 fourth quarter threes, I think it was, and just went off, capped off by a 4 point play. Um, there were times where he would go off on the offensive end in terms of scoring and would look like vintage James Harden. But for the most
Right.
part, he was a guy that got other guys involved, and he was really, really good at it, and he still is. Um, but yeah, I would say that he's kind of slotted more into a role player role, and I don't think that's on him. I think that's just the way that this team is constructed. Would I like him to go off more, especially when we really need a bucket? Yeah, of course. But that
I
hasn't been the role that he's been playing this season.
I guess and I understand, like in the NBA, each to be a successful team, everyone has to know their role. But I wonder why, like for example, today's game, why he doesn't just decide to go. I don't want to say decide to go off, but when he sees that Paul George and Kawhi aren't having the greatest game, I feel like he never really goes off. He just continues to be, and that's what you want from a good role player, is to be even keel the entire time. But I mean, we all know the like his abilities. We all know what he can do. So I kind of wonder why he doesn't, like, one game when he sees that Paul George and Kawhi aren't feeling it, to just let it fly.
Yeah,
I feel like he's kind of passive at times.
I agree. I agree. And then there's been times like kind of recently where he's trying to he won't even be able to get guys involved because he'll be turning the ball over. He just looks a step slow. And
Right.
that's another issue in and of itself. But I think that's just a byproduct of how this team is constructed. This team is a 2-1 is 2-1-3, right? Like Kawhi and Paul George are the leaders of this team, and
Mm-hmm.
they should be the ones that everybody defers to. And so while in a perfect world, James Harden would just be able to flip that switch and say, Kawhi and PG aren't hitting their shots, I'm going to take over. But I think what he's trying to do in those situations where Kawhi and PG are missing their shots and he's still passing to them, I think in James Harden's eye, he's been put into this situation where he knows that the Clippers record when James Harden has 10 or more assists is like 22-3. I think it's 22-4 now or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they're successful when James Harden moves the ball. And Kawhi and Paul George are successful when James Harden moves the ball. And I think in his eyes, it's like, okay, they're missing some shots, but we know how good they are. This team is their team. I'm going to keep trying to find them because they're good enough to where they can get over that slump. They should be able to get over that slump and take over. And if it really comes down to it, I'll take the shot. I'll run my ISO. But also with the way that James Harden plays, it takes him a while to get into sets. He's very methodical. What he'll do is he'll take the ball across half court. There'll be about 20 seconds left on the clock, and it takes him about 6 or 7 seconds to try and see and scan and see what's going on, wait for some
Mm-hmm.
off ball movement and stuff like that. And by the time that he can realize like, okay, there's no shot for Jane, or there's no shot for Paul George, there's no shot for Kawhi. It wouldn't be in my best or our best interest to try and force them the ball. I'm going to try and take a shot. By that time, there's already about 7-8 seconds left on the clock, and it's really hard to try and make a play for
Right.
yourself when you have that little time on the clock. So I just think that it's a byproduct of this team. I think that no matter who you bring to this team, this will always be, as long as they're on the team, this will always be Kawhi and PG's team. And I
Of
think that
course.
James Harden knows that. Like you said, would I like for James Harden to be able to like take the next step and say, okay, I'm going to take over when I see that they're playing bad.
I just think that
That'd be
we're
great.
gonna. I just think that we're gonna need him to do so in the playoffs. I think we're gonna get to. I mean, hopefully we get to a team where. Well, I don't want to say hopefully, but hopefully we get to a round where we face a team like the Nuggets, whose game plan is going to be to completely
Ooh,
shut out Kawhi and Paul
I don't know
George.
if I want to face the Nuggets in the playoffs.
I mean, let's be real. We're gonna see them eventually. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, like, let's be
we're
real.
gonna have to. Yeah, we're gonna have if
Yeah,
we want to win a championship. I
we
know what you're
have to go
saying.
through them.
Yeah,
And will James Harden step up and go off? Because if he does, I mean, it's barbecue chicken, you know.
yeah,
But otherwise, it's gonna be tough. So
yeah.
I guess we'll see. You know.
Yeah, no, we will. I think that it's certainly possible. I just don't know if that's the game plan. But I mean, I agree with you to a point. I think that it should be, and I think that that's the one thing that James has got to work on,
Hmm.
is to try and recognize when to take over and when not to. And I do give him the benefit of the doubt, like I said, because I think it is just how this game plan is run for this team, the pecking order of this team. But yeah, I don't know. We will see, like you said. One more game to cover in terms of recaps, and that's the one that we just saw today. The arguably the worst of all the four. And this was a 121-107 loss to the Philadelphia 76ers. This game was kind of a rock fight from the jump. Clippers got down seven, I think 7-0 to start the game. And then we just kept kind of going back and forth. And then we tied it up in the third, I believe. And we kind of couldn't, we never had the lead
Hmm.
throughout the whole game. We tied it up. Things were looking like we could kind of go on a run. Paul George was starting to get loose. We looked good. I think that when things went wrong was we started to turn the ball over, and it started with James and Paul George and Kawhi,
Hmm.
but it got worse when Zoo checked out, and Tice wasn't having a great game, so Ty went with Plumlee, and our bench didn't really give us much. And while you can't put too much blame on that, um, in the first game of a back to back, I would have liked to see our bench chip in. Besides Norman Powell, who's always great, 20 points from Norm tonight
Hmm.
or today. But in a game, the first night of a back to back, you would love to be able to count on your bench to come in and kind of take over. And if need be, the stars can check back in. But didn't see really anything from Ty's. 0 points, 3 rebounds, and Plumlee. While he had 8 points, the it was just the turnovers and the timing of the turnovers. Like I said, we went down 8. The game was still within reach. I think there was like 10 minutes left. Plumlee grabs a rebound and tries to get the ball back to James Harden, who's behind him, and fucks up a dribble handoff. And Tyrese Maxey gets the ball, hits a
Hmm.
three, becomes like an 11-point lead. Not a great game
Yeah.
from Amir, who's been struggling. 2 points, minus 16. BBJ had 4 points. You can't really expect him to do too much with the amount of minutes that he's getting, but it was a +4. Kind of a quiet game from Terrence. He started off the game, hit 2 back-to-back threes, and then kind of was quiet from then on. Yeah, I don't know. James Harden, 12 with 14 assists. Kind of can't hate on those numbers. Would have liked him, like Rolla said, to maybe score a little bit more, but
Hmm.
just a lackluster game from everybody. Kawhi had 20 points, but I don't
Yeah.
think he checked in at all in the fourth because the game was kind of already over. PG, 18, not a great game from him. Had a couple of really bad turnovers, 5 total for the game.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
I
man.
I think it went downhill after Paul George had a breakaway 2-on-1 with Kelly
Gets blocked
Oubre.
by Kelly Oubre. Yeah.
It was a 2-on-1 with Kelly Oubre. Terrence Mann was on the other side. And instead of passing it to Terrence Mann, who had angled himself to allow Kelly Oubre to blow by him so he could get an easy layup or dunk, Paul George tries to dunk it basically over Kelly Oubre. He
Also,
gets
it was the
blocked by
slow.
Kelly Oubre. Well, I think
Watching it in
Paul,
real time too, it was like he wound up like he was gonna yam it, and he went up, and it felt like it was in slow motion. Like it was the slowest dunk I've ever seen from Paul George, I think.
um
And Kelly Oubre
well
just stuffed his shit.
Kelly Oubre blocked his shit, and I don't know if you saw Terrence Mann after. Terrence didn't even help him up, dude. He was just pissed because
Is that true?
what? Yeah, because why aren't you passing Terrence Mann at that moment? And then the next play, he gets called offensive foul for pushing off on Kelly Oubre, and that was based. Those two plays back to back basically started the downfall. We were tied at that point, I believe. That dunk would have put us in the lead.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said to start the show, I think there are little things that our stars could be doing better.
Yeah.
And I think that they have such an impact on our team and on the game that, you know, these are things that are fixable, obviously, but, you know, we have to fix it going forward. You know, I'm hoping this next week and the month of April are different because the playoffs are coming right the fuck up.
Yeah. After this loss, the Clippers find themselves a half game up from fifth. The Pelicans lost Brandon Ingram to like a hyperextended knee. It didn't look good. Hopefully, Bi can come back healthy because you know the NBA is better when the stars are playing, and you hate to
Hmm.
see that from a team that's been playing really well.
When
But
did he
I
get
mean,
injured?
what's that?
When did he get injured?
A couple games ago, he planted wrong and his knee bent back, and they said that he'll be reevaluated in like a week or two or something like that. I don't know
Hmm.
how long he's going to be out, but it looks like they're still winning games. You know, Zion's playing at an elite level. He's looked really, really good as we saw the last time we played against him, and we're only a half game up from these guys. And like, I don't think that we're getting the third seed. I think we're 4 games out of the third seed. I think we can kiss that shit goodbye. But
Yeah.
we need to maintain home court advantage. We can't fall to fifth or lower. And we with this loss, it makes it a lot harder. Let me this whole stretch of games has felt kind of like it's gonna be story time real quick, and then we'll jump
Okay.
into previews. There is a story in Greek mythology, and it centers around a character named Sisyphus, not to be confused with syphilis.
Okay.
He was a tyrannical king. He was unfair in the way that he ruled. He was a piece of shit, basically.
Okay.
So the gods curse him and curse him to push up a heavy circular rock, a big boulder, up a mountain and get it to the top. And every time that he pushes it and gets farther and farther up the mountain, it rolls back down and he has to start over. And it's a perpetual curse, and he's cursed to do that for eternity for the way that he's ruled his kingdom. That has been the way I've felt about the Clippers as of late. We're pushing the rock up the hill. We get close to the top. We lose our grip on the rock. Rock falls back down. We have to start over.
Hmm.
Bottom line, especially with how close the Clippers are to falling out of the top of a top 4 seed, the Clippers need to find a way. Doesn't matter how. Need to find a way to get momentum and win these games and get some actual momentum going into the playoffs, because we can't keep letting the we'll have like a 1.5 game lead on the fifth, and then we'll have a half game lead on the fifth. We can't keep letting this boulder slide down that goddamn mountain. Don't be Sisyphus, please, Clippers.
Yeah. Don't be
Let's try and
Syliphus.
yeah, don't be that.
Don't be syphilis.
Yes, don't be syphilis. Definitely don't be syphilis. Yeah, hopefully the Clippers can string together some win. We have a relatively easy. I mean, it's hard to say anymore, but we play the Pacers. I think we play the Magic. We play Philly again, and then we play the Hornets in this next 4 games. So these are games that we can win. The first of which would be coming tomorrow against the Pacers. But man, the Clippers need to start getting some wins and try and avoid falling out of that home court advantage spot going into the playoffs. But we're going to cover all of that coming up after this break, guys. So stay tuned.
All right, guys, we're back. We're going to get right into previews for this week. We are playing 4 games: the Indiana Pacers, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Orlando Magic, and the Charlotte Hornets. We're playing the Pacers on Monday. This is the second night of a back-to-back. Like I said, the Clippers have, a couple more weeks to step it up. I think we have until April 14th, and that's the end of the regular season. That's our last game. So it's kind of just, at the end of the day, we just have to play better. Pacers, they haven't really looked too good as of late. I think they're playing today, so it'll be a second night of a back-to-back for them also.
They've been
So
struggling a little bit. They're still first in points per game and first in assists, so they do
Okay.
still have that potent offense, but they're pretty bad defensively.
Yeah, so it should be a win for us. We took care of the games against the Trailblazers, so expect the same type of thing from a team that's on a similar level. I would say. I don't know. Are they even in the playoffs? Do you know?
They're sixth. They're sixth in the East. That it's gonna, to me, this game poses a harder challenge than obviously the 76ers game did, and it's the second night of a back-to-back. So if we can split these games and find a way to win against a better team than we saw today, then I'm not as worried. But yeah,
Well,
our,
yeah. So I personally don't think they're either. I don't think either team is that great. I think today's loss to the Sixers was an anomaly. I think that we should take care of business against the Pacers, and I think we should take care of business against the Sixers. And when I say anomaly, I mean our team is
it
pretty
should
far
be
and
an
away
anomaly.
better.
It should be an anomaly.
No, but like if we're being real, our team is so far and away better than the Sixers are constructed. So I don't see why we wouldn't torch a team like the Sixers, and I don't see why we wouldn't torch a team like the Pacers.
I
Um,
agree.
I'm expecting to see 4 wins this week. The 4 teams we're playing aren't any. And
I'm trying
I
so
don't.
hard not to chime in
I'm
right
not. I'm
now.
not trying to talk. I'm not trying to talk shit. But if I'm being real, these teams aren't that great. They're not a championship caliber team. They're not deep playoff teams. So
Agreed.
we should be
Doesn't
completely
mean we're gonna win.
destroying them. I'm
Yeah,
saying that I'm expecting us to win, and I'm saying that we should be winning. If we have a healthy
of course.
Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden, I'm expecting 4 wins for this week,
I
and
love to see it. I would love to see it. Let's
that's
get
where I'm
that
at.
rock up the fucking mountain.
Let's get that rock up the mountain. I don't think there's too much to say. The Orlando Magic, they're a good young team.
Orlando's going to be the toughest one, I think.
They have some pretty good young players on that team, but like I keep saying, at the end of the day, to me, it's just not worth the energy of even discussing them.
Orlando's tough. They've been playing really well, and they're jockeying with the Knicks for the 4th seed right now. They're currently 5th, but they've been playing really well. I've been watching Magic games a little bit more
Okay,
recently. That's going to be the hardest game to me.
okay. We'll
We can
see.
still win. We can still win.
But if
Obviously.
like I said, if we're looking at these next 4 teams, Charlotte Hornets, come on, they might be bottom 3 in the league.
I'm going to be so pissed if we lose that one. I'm
Yeah.
already pissed, but come on.
Yeah. So that's all I got for previews. I'm like I said, I don't really have anything in depth to talk about each one of these teams. I think we
No, it's
already know
good.
what has to be fixed with the Sixers. Like I said, the Pacers, I don't think that they've been playing too well recently. Tyrese Halliburton has kind of been cheeks.
He's
recently,
catching a lot of
dude.
he's kind of catching a lot of flack, which
He's kind of been
which I
cheeks recently.
he's been a little cheeks. He's been one cheek. I don't know if he's been cheeks, but he's been one cheek. I'm just a big Halliburton guy. I think that he runs an offense in a way that most young guys don't. His teammates trust him. His teammates love him, and so he has been struggling, and this is something that we should take advantage of. Playing them, especially in the second night of a back-to-back. I think, like you said, Rolla, they will be on the second night of a back-to-back as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, we the thing with them is they're such a good offense that there's going to be times where you kind of just have to throw your hands up because they move the ball so well. They're going to find open shooters, but at the end of the day, we have to at least honor them. Play a decent brand of defense, and then we just we're going to basically have to match them shot for shot. We have the better shot makers, so hopefully we can win that battle offensively.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, there's not to piggyback off of what you said before we head out of here. Not really much that needs to be said going into these 4 games. This needs to be a stretch that we take advantage of because it gets a little bit harder after this Charlotte game on Sunday, I believe. And we need every win that we can get with how close we are to falling out of the top 4. This stretch is tough enough to where I think we would be able to get some really good reps and feel good about getting these wins. Like we aren't playing the Trailblazers 4 times. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're playing the Hornets and we're playing the 76ers. And I think those are the 2 teams that it's like, they're definitely at a disadvantage. But with the Pacers and the Magic particularly, if we can go even 3-1 in these games, this is something that we could feel really good about. And while it's not going to be the level of competition, I don't think with what we would see in a first round series, it would be close because these teams, the Pacers and the Magic, are really playing for a playoff spot, like playing for a meaningful playoff spot. So they're going to be playing hard. If we can go 3-1 even in this stretch, I think it would be something that I can certainly feel good about with this Clipper team, and it's something that we can do. So let's just do it. I think that needs to be the. Go ahead.
Yeah, just do it. Let's get rid of let's march. What was your?
We march. We marches in the basement right now. We're marching backwards. If we marched any slower, we'd be marching backwards right now.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I was just looking at the games, the schedule for the rest of the season, and we have to play next week. We play Sacramento, Denver, Utah, Cleveland, Phoenix twice, Utah, and then Houston to end the season.
And we're gonna have to think about rest too. Some of our stars are probably gonna be resting.
It's gonna be a rough end of the season. We really have to step it up this next week. Honestly, we must go 4-0. I think it's a must. Because Denver's going to be a tough game. Sacramento and then Denver in 2 days, 2 days after that, those are 2 tough games.
And it sucks to say because I agree with you, Rolla. I think that like going 4-0 is we need to hold that to a premium because and that's the shitty thing is like you wouldn't look at this stretch normally and be like, if we don't go 4-0, then we might lose our position in the standings. But because of losses against the 76ers and because of losses against the Hawks and the Bucks without Giannis and the Lakers when we're up 20 plus, these games become so much more meaningful that it's like you have to throw your hands up and be like, anything less than 4-0 might be an issue.
Yeah.
And you might not even be playing bad. You just lose a close game. But it becomes so much more of an issue because of the games that we're supposed to win. So 4-0 is awesome. Roland and I would be very happy to come back to you guys on Sunday or Monday and be able to report a 4-0 series of games. So Roland, I'm with you. Let's go 4-0. Let's get right. Let's stop turning over the ball on a dribble handoff. And let's get into playoff form. I will say before we head out, there is news that Russell Westbrook is going to be coming back tomorrow against the Pacers. So we will see that it's kind of a double-edged sword because we're going to have to incorporate a guy that hasn't been in the lineup for the last 3 weeks into our offense. Can we do that on the fly against a team that really, is fairly good? We'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing Russ just back out on the floor because we do need him for the playoffs. He gives a lot to this team, but we'll see how he looks in his first game back. Hopefully he can contribute to this 4-0 record like we are predicting. But yeah, if there's nothing else to cover, I think that about does it for us, guys, on this fine Sunday. Fingers crossed, guys, and keep the belief, Clipper Nation, because this team shows what we can do when we're engaged and when we're playing at our best. So there's still while it's been kind of a negative episode, while we want to keep it real with you guys, we neither of us believe that the Clippers season is over and that the
Oh
sky is
no.
falling just yet. There's still, meaningful games to be played, and we have a whole playoff. Hopefully, we have a whole series of playoff games in front of us, and that is when the season starts. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer. You can find us on YouTube, obviously. And then get us on Twitter and on Instagram. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know what you think of the team, what your opinion is on the team. Let your heart flow and give as many negative comments as you feel like you need to. This is a safe space. But just Clipper Nation, just remember we got each other's back. We're with this team till the wheels fall off, and I am very excited to see if we can turn this thing around. So yeah, as always, let's go Clips.
Go Clips.